Today's chat is brought to you by the support of all our Twitch subscribers. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through the Twitch platform, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a subscriber of the FFC and gaining access to some exclusive features over in the Discord server, please be sure to visit our Twitch account and click on the subscribe button. If you're an Amazon Prime member, remember that you do have a free subscription to Twitch every month that can be used for this. And for those of you who are already subscribers, thank you again for your generosity.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat. Explore together.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on May 8th, 2020 over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat as we continue our discussion over the updated information concerning Rasputin. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the advanced session of the week's exploration. Congratulations to those who have signed up for a deeper dive. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And here is the toxic, aka poisonous Le Monarch slinging bow hunter green-eyed music lover.
That was amazing, Green.
And last but definitely not least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend CharmedPluto. Charmed, how are you doing?
Hello. I'm a little on the struggle bus right now, but we're going to keep on chugging. We'll make it through.
Yeah. Coffee up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so jumping back into Rasputin. Do you want to start with the 7 Seraph set from this season?
Oh, boy.
Oh, my gosh.
This set reminds me...
Yeah.
The set's lore reminds me of something ripped right out of the Halo expanded universe.
Right?
It almost reminds me of the scene in Ghosts of Onyx when they're underground fighting everything and just stuff's blowing up and it looks like they're about to lose, then somebody blows themselves. It's crazy. If you haven't read Ghosts of Onyx, go read it.
Yeah, it also had really, for me, it was very Reach-like.
Yes.
Like, the whole thing with the Last Stand and everything. Like, I'm like, and the thing for me here is, like, the 7th Seraph, interestingly enough, for me, was it actually didn't have a lot to do with Rasputin.
No, surprisingly enough, it didn't.
It had a lot to do with the Traveler, and actually kind of the downside to the Traveler being, I don't know, a giant celestial body suddenly jumping into an atmosphere of a planet, because, you know, that has a bit of repercussions.
Just a little?
I love how they finally kind of addressed that problem with this set. They're like, oh yeah, that causes issues. Like, yeah, it does. Gravitational things are a big deal. But
just
like,
it didn't hit the ground.
Oh my gosh!
If it hit the ground, we'd all be screwed.
But like the whole thing with the set is like it's all about like this one figure, and I want to say he's a human. Because he mentions like wiping sweat off his brow and stuff like that, but it's First Lieutenant Artur Voronin
is how I'm saying that.
And so it's literally another slice of a picture of what was happening right as the collapse started. So the Traveler is in the process. It's right at the end of the Traveler abandoning, I think it was Io, if I remember that off the top of my head.
Yep, it's Io. Last place the Traveler ever touched.
You get a call out to Titan
yes.
being unable to be reached here.
Yep. Like everything is just going to hell in a handbasket. And these guys, they're part of the military. They're trying to load up weapons, basically. And they're trying to... He mentions, like, if he drops it, it's going to be bad news for everybody in the near vicinity, which kind of points to, oh, that's explosives. Like,
excuse me, Lieutenant, why are they armed? OSHA's going to have a heyday with you when you get out of this.
OSHA
OSHA
does not care about what is going on in this universe. There's no goggles. There's no hand protection. Yes. They're wearing short sleeves half the time. Like, what is going on?
It has been 0 days since...
Yeah.
I love that is a dynamic counter in the tower.
Oh man.
Bad.
I don't want to guess too far off topic, but have you seen the maintenance personnel that worked on the Vex Gate during the season of the Undying?
I'm telling you, there's no OSHA in Destiny.
She got so upset.
There's no
trust me.
No cares.
Trust me, I did too. As someone who has to work around stuff that could jab an
Blow
eye
up?
out or possibly blow up
Right.
if you don't do something right,
Yeah.
I kind of like my PPE, just throwing that out there.
Personal protection.
Yep.
Yeah. No, is there anything in these cards in particular? Because we have the Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3 kind of thing going on in here, where you're getting descriptions done and all these different aspects, primarily kind of the collapse idea, or like the life in a citizen during what we would assume is the collapse. At least that's what I assumed, with the fact that Titan has its own...
The initial moment, like that, the Traveler just arrived on Earth, so the air quote battle has not yet begun, but that is like right when everything's going to hell, right before the shots are fired, I think is what we're seeing here. Is the kind of the way I took it.
I take this as right, and I believe this is right at the maybe the back half, not quite the end of the Kraken Mare lore book.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking too.
That's where I place at the very least the first like 2 or 3 entries, and like the Traveler arrives, Kraken Mare has fallen, it's been completely overrun or not overrun, just destroyed.
Right. Well, if that's the case, and this is basically another vignette, I don't know how we're going to say it, that gives us a window into what was going on during the collapse, during the first time this happened. Is it not a little concerning that we're getting the Seraph tech now in game when the Pyramid Dorito ships are coming for us and we are all out of Cool Ranch dip?
Oh boy. I think part of the 7th Seraph gear not coming to us initially is because there's a breach in trust between Guardians and Rasputin. Because, I mean, it does seem like the 7th Seraphs worked not directly for Rasputin, or worked alongside him, more like.
Yeah.
So, like...
Well, the 7th Seraph were described as, like, the creators of the bunkers. So, like, they were... I kind of get the... Like, they were, like, the IT support people, basically, is the feeling that I always got with them.
A bone to pick with the bunkers? Why
Just one?
there a side where... I mean, there's a lot of bones to pick with those bunkers.
Why is
but
there a subway?
This one... why... Well, not even the subway. Why is there a elevator that is like one of those sideways-esque ones that we make fun of during the Brakazan strike?
Man, the Cabal are inefficient.
Inefficient? What? That's what we're jumping down, is one of those elevator shafts.
Well,
I don't think the Cabal are the inefficient.
No, because we jumped down the it's a slope, so it's a
It would be
that's a factory.
It would be
that's a factory front load. Like basically, it's not a front loader, but it's the factory floor to lower stuff down. It's so that they don't have to.
That's the elevator. Because at the bottom of it would be kind of the elevator base of it, like the Brakazan that we ride up. We're just doing it in reverse.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway. See, I don't think that was the elevator that he was talking about. Like, I think
no, I don't think
the
so
elevator
either.
that I thought they were talking about was one that literally went from side to side. Like, it literally was like left to right. Like there's no point.
Yeah, exactly. What is the point of that?
There's no point to that.
At that
the
point,
one on a slope.
At that point, just
one with a slope. Just put wheels on it.
Yeah, like at that point, just get a K loader and load it up with cargo and drive it around. That's what we do now. God, when
the Cabal are inefficient.
I don't even want to get into how like just dumb some of the Cabal tech is. Like some of it's just, it's not smart. Their smartest thing was their shield in D1. That was literally the smartest thing they had. And then they downgraded that and said, hey, here's the camera. Maybe shoot it and see what happens. Cabal got neutered. Oh, specifically the Red Legion did.
Well, yeah.
They are the...
No one's ever claimed that the Cabal are intelligent.
Not really.
Well, the Cabal were. I think the Red Legion might not be.
That's fair. That's fair. So there's a call out that the 7 Seraphs are gone now, essentially.
Yeah.
The Seraphs are gone now. Everything is gone. So those blades you gave the Guardians belong to the Seraphs. Yes, you trust them. Everything is gone. Dino puts that text in chat. There's a lot you can read into that, and the fact that the 7 Seraphs, if they are kind of the group that helped design these different defense bunkers, which is what I would assume these are. Would you say that they're defense bunkers because they're the way they're positioned, or what do we think about that?
I don't necessarily think they're defense bunkers. I mean, so much as fallout shelters. Like, because the way they're opened up, the way you worm your way into them, and how deep underground they are, you don't defend from a position like that. You hunker down and wait for the storm to pass in a position like that.
Sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
The thing, though, if we look at the different bunkers that we know about, there's the bunker in the EDZ. There's the bunker in Russia that we did in this Saber strike.
Yeah, bunker RAS-3, I believe is what it was called.
So there's 2 bunkers on Earth that we know about. There's the bunker on the moon in Archer's Line. There's the bunker on Io that is part of this event as well, which the one on Io still confuses me as far as the location of it. Moon makes somewhat a bit of sense. Io
makes no sense
still,
whatsoever.
I'm still trying to...
You would think there would be a Seraph bunker on Mars, if anything, because that's where I thought the third bunker was going to be.
I mean, Mars has the base of Rasputin, though, and the whole point of what we're doing this season is we're reconnecting Rasputin to these. And there's the other thing is we're only touching 3 of the bunkers. There are 12 mentioned. But isn't there a 13th one that isn't in the original listing?
Yep.
So there's 13 possible locations to have gone to. So who's to say that there isn't necessarily one on Mars, on the other side of Mars, where we did the original Mars mission in like that Freehold area? Yeah. Whereas,
we know that there are facilities on Mars that we don't have access to in game because of web lore.
Yeah.
Right. And if you look at the map inside of the bunkers, there's listings on the wall of all the different locations we have been to throughout the Destiny timeline. Whether it's, you have Mars, you have kind of the Saturn type thing with the Dreadnought and everything there. I wonder if those are locations of actual bunkers, possibly, because there is the bunker that Anna goes to, which Blue and I have discussed doing an entire episode on the legacy web lores, because there's a lot to unpack in there. And that second Legacy 2, if I remember correctly, it's out by Saturn. Blue or Dino,
the Echo?
Correct me if I'm wrong on that
that's
one.
the Echo project?
Right.
Yeah, but I wouldn't consider...
one of the different bases.
I was about to say, I wouldn't consider that a bunker necessarily.
But those bunkers are where she's using to upload parts of Rasputin back to him. Right? Like, that's the whole point of all these different locations, is she's gathering Rasputin's pieces and putting them back together. He is being the Osiris of war minds at the moment.
We're taking fragments and putting them back together.
Yeah, let me go real quick. It's out at Uranus.
Okay, so even further out.
Kalis.
Yeah, okay.
Kalius station? I'm mispronouncing that. But this... Yeah, because Echo is the contingency program. So it's not so much... It wasn't so much a bunker to regain portions of Rasputin as much as to, I think, understand what they were building a contingency for.
But the different things that she's uploading back to Rasputin, these are pieces that he no longer has access to.
Correct. So, yeah. But I don't... Did she upload... I can't remember off the top of my head. Did she upload something from Echo? Because I know she sent it back to the Vanguard. I don't
remember it. I'd have to read over it again. But that's
that would be a That's a legacy episode question when we get to that episode, because there's so much in those two web lores to unpack. It's crazy. So let's talk a little bit about
data. That's what she did.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other aspects that we've gotten this season. One of the biggest being the Warmind artifact.
Ah, yes. I actually saw Rhino.
Kanjali.
I actually saw Rhino talk about this the day it dropped, and then I actually looked into it a little bit. Kanjali are usually like ceremonial daggers. They're meant to look really pretty. They're not actually meant to be weapons, from what I could look at. Like, you would wear this to basically flex on somebody about how wealthy you were.
Well, there's also power in the... so a dagger is a focus point, right? A lot of these ceremonial weapons are not necessarily meant as just a pretty thing. They're also meant as the quote-unquote metaphysical ability to direct energy or to direct purpose. So there's a little bit more symbology in that effect, in the fact that we're using a Kanjali in-game as our artifact. We are wielding the focus point now to try and complete this season, so to speak.
Yeah, focal point for where to point Rasputin's weaponry at the end of all of it, right at the Almighty.
If he cooperates, because no guarantees.
I mean, I feel like the only person Rasputin even remotely listens to is Anna. So I feel like if we gave it to Anna and she pointed it at the Almighty, he'd be like, okay, that thing's gonna disappear now.
Does he really listen to Anna? Because
no.
Mr. I am supposedly shut off in her headset shows up randomly in one of the things, even though he was not supposed to be there.
Rasputin, how long have you been here?
The smell of cinnamon. I love the synesthesia aspect of Rasputin's communication style with Anna. It just makes me so happy. But let's talk about that opening cinematic for Season of the Worthy a little bit, because we have just all the actual aspects of the season that have happened. Where we get the idea that the Almighty is going to crash into Earth, somehow bypassing so many different things in between the sun and us.
Again, going back to the Red Legion are not smart. There are...
But it's working. They're lucky.
They are lucky. That is for sure. There are a lot, and I mean a lot of things that should be going wrong with just putting the boosters on max, pointing it at the Earth, and full sending. You've got at least one other planet to avoid, never mind all the gravity from those celestial bodies interacting with the Almighty. It's a mess. Oh, and
I think the most terrifying thing, as far as if you're talking about the speed at which the Almighty would have to travel at in order to make it to Earth in the time span of this season, which is what, 74 days for this season?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Almighty is moving. Like, that thing, it is moving. That is one way of putting it.
Yeah. Just a bit. So at the end of that cinematic, we get that realization from Zavala that maybe we have to work with Rasputin to be able to, like, he swallows a little bit of his own pride in it, I think, with his grudge against Rasputin, and has decided that now he's begrudgingly going to go and ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it ever
from there?
I'm sorry to interrupt, Bree. Is it ever established why Zavala and Rasputin are more or less at odds? I don't remember if it was.
It was a web lore.
Okay.
Basically, when the speaker was MIA, KIA, whatever you want to believe, Zavala got access to a lot more information than he even knew existed. And a lot of that information contained information that we have yet to see about Rasputin. And so it kind of, and that was kind of where at the beginning, I can't remember which season it was, but the whole or I think it was Warmind actually, when the Zavala was like, he got really pissed and he showed up at the mind lab
at the
that's it.
and
that's
he was like,
Warmind.
what are you, blah blah blah, and he's like, and he started yelling and, you know, all this stuff, and everyone, like, my biggest bone to pick with that whole thing was like, how did you get here? Like, I was like, it was a very small thing, but I was really confused how he like got there. But like the whole thing for his like frustration with Rasputin is basically similar to Osiris. Is, you know, again, he just doesn't trust him. He just, I mean, and from Zavala's point of view, it actually makes sense, because he's got, you know, the well-being of quite a few people riding on his shoulders. So dealing with something that powerful that is also that untrustworthy is probably not a comfortable position for him to be in.
I feel like Zavala also kind of sees himself in Rasputin. And sorry to cut you off, Blue.
Oh no, yeah.
Like he kind of sees. And that's a later cutscene. Like it really does seem like he feels like he sees himself in Rasputin. He saw, like, they're both super afraid of failure. Like, Rasputin's not programmed to fail; he is programmed to win. Zavala doesn't like failure in really any regard, but unlike Rasputin, he's not willing to shrug off the people he's protecting just to win. Yeah, right. He's got morality. Well,
and that's where I was kind of drawing the connection between the two of them with the whole Forsaken bit. Is like, again, you know, they both have the same end goal. It's just one, Rasputin kind of views the end as justifying the means, and Zavala says, you know, Zavala is kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum with the whole, no, you can't sacrifice the means to, like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, there is a reason to maintain morality, and that's the biggest thing that I've always kind of noticed between the two of them. But yes, I think that ultimately you're right. You know, you hit it on the head. I think the two of them are going for the same conclusion. It's just the path that they're taking is significantly different.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good segue into what happened on Io. The cutscene we witnessed on Io between Zavala and Rasputin, where you see Zavala basically say, Anna insists you understand the stakes, convince me. And then Rasputin literally displays a hologram of the solar system with the pyramid ships at the edge of the system.
And then also plays back the Kraken Mare
you mean hacks Zavala's ghost?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
like he did back
don't get me started on that. Yeah, don't get me started on that rabbit hole. That has so many implications that make my brain hurt.
The thing is, it's not the first time that's happened.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the thing that that's that rabbit hole. I may have sent Blue down that rabbit hole the other day with me, with the whole,
it's got some,
why does Rasputin have access to ghost coding, essentially.
Dangerous connotations.
Big Brother is always watching.
This is true, but the perfect way to do that is through tiny little cameras all over the solar system. And guess what? You have a perfect venue for that in the Ghost. Anyway, going back to that cutscene, you have that Ghost getting hacked and playing a recording of the Mayday of the New Pacific Arcology, specifically. You get Rasputin's recordings from back in the day from that whole... What did he do? I am not even paying attention to chat.
Ghosts are Destiny's nanny cams.
I mean, they really are. They kind of are. They're constantly with us. They know everything you've done. They're worse than Santa. That's the most PG version. I could go with that. So be glad.
They're like the Woody in Toy Story when he spins his head around. We see everything. Oh my God.
Terrible.
Let's not focus on that, shall we?
Yep. But so New Pacific Arcology, the Mayday comes in. You get that kind of reveal in game of what would be the Kraken Mare book. So Zavala says, hey, you were there at the collapse. We're buddies now! Because as far as... never mind my feelings on how Zavala made that much of a 180 that quickly based off of that one thing without having any questions about how Rasputin did that. But he comes around, and when they come, we will stand together as equals, as guardians, because not Rasputin, but Zavala loves to make that claim. We're all guardians
it's
here.
It's his second favorite phrase, right underneath the word indeed.
I mean,
Tilk.
Yes, Stargate. Anyway, so from there, we are sent out into the system. And this whole connection, or all these different connections that have been happening as we're unlocking these bunkers on the EDZ, on the moon, and on Io. You upgrade all the bunkers, you get all the little toys, you get the little bot, which I don't know if you guys have named your little bot.
That's what I call mine.
You call him Brobot? Okay. I kind of want to get a funny, like, I summoned Bob, or something like that. Just something silly.
Oh, you mean the heavy frames?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I call him Robot.
Yeah. I call him cannon fodder.
That's what I used
mean,
to.
he is that. He's a really good distraction.
He's really good at that. Like, I'm like, go distract the two champions who are bugging me right now.
So, after you upgrade that, the Seraph Tower events and everything, you're going through that, and the very first section, the first run-through of those 3 locations were a basic Seraph Tower event where you were building the tower, right? That was the whole point of those.
You were building satellites.
Yeah.
Anna comments on them a lot. And
now with the new one, you're shooting the satellites off, correct? It's a launch sequence?
I believe so. I haven't done a Seraph Tower event in a while.
I think that's the implied thing, is because you're launching... I think, like, the first thing was, like, you're basically building staging platforms, and now you're actually launching the warsats.
I mean...
Not warsats, but, like, the... whatever.
The defenses.
Because I think that's why it takes longer, right? Because it's more complicated now.
Yeah,
oh my gosh. I've only completed it once.
Yeah, I haven't even completed it after the update one.
Yeah.
It's rough.
I always thought that we were building the so-called Aurora knives.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you get we mentioned Legacy earlier, and one of the things called out in Legacy is when Anna approaches Uranus. Let's see here. There is the moment where it's the OF moment.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I pulled the Legacy 2 up. Let's see here. The jump drive misalignment. Let's see here. As Anna pushes on the flight stick, laser fire. Basically, everything turns from the planet and shoots up at them. Laser fire.
It's like, oh, they noticed.
But they are called out. But they are called out as warsats.
Yeah, because that's
we are
when
shooting warsats into the planet outer.
Because that's also
satellite
when
zone.
You see Rasputin hacking them and taking them back. Because Jinju fires spikes, basically not information spikes, but remote access spikes, and once they hit the warsat, Rasputin is able to establish a remote connection to them and bypass their controls.
Assimilate them into his control, which is also terrifying.
Give me
rather
Harbinger
quickly
vibes.
too, I might add.
All your warsats are mine.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Harbinger from Mass Effect. I'm assuming direct control. This mine now. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things in this whole assimilation. The Tyrant. I would say that is a very apt description of Mr. Big Orange and
Big Red.
Russian. Mm-hmm. Big Red, yeah, literally. Who also likes using the scent of cinnamon. Mr. Big Red.
It's almost like it's his favorite brand of chewing gum.
I mean, we're not sponsored by them, but if you would like to, anybody from that chewing gum company.
I'm not going to say no.
Right? I like Big Red.
Yay.
I'll chew Big Red while doing the podcast. Keep my breath fresh so it goes into your ears so smoothly.
The taste of cinnamon overwhelming your synapse.
I mean, the other thing too is, and this is something that I made a comment to Green about, was it also points to the fact that the Rasputin that we know in game today is not the Tyrant.
No.
Like, which, think about that for a second, because that is a bit of a hefty realization.
Well, that's one of the things I kind of mentioned back before, in the fact that the different points that Anna is going to gather Rasputin to him, to gather up more of that information that reconnect all these different assets. We are building him up again to be maybe not the same Tyrant he may have been back in the day, but he's going to get a lot closer to what he was than where he is now.
Correct. Yeah.
Let's just hope we don't reconnect that little rage problem he's got, considering the last time that they sent a team of Guardians into RAS-3, I believe. We've got their bodies scattered across the Skywatch.
I mean, Iron Lord's story has its own ups and downs and ties into this season that we're not going to go super into, mainly because it's spoilers.
Yeah.
All I'll say on that is just Fellwinter, my dude.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but we will get some information on that very event that you're talking about, which is nice. So, the thing with Rasputin having that little anger issue, the whole idea of him defending his different regencies or his different locations throughout the system. First we had if you remember the very first mission we did where we connected Rasputin to everything.
The array.
And it was a total accident, the array.
One of my favorite missions. It has one of the best songs in the game.
It does. And it also has one of the best little shoot 'em up venues, basically, where it's just like things running by as you're standing in one point, shooting out at this. It's like a carnival game. There we go. You're shooting the ducks.
Yeah.
Put a tether
the
right in the
hive.
door and watch them all run into it. Fire one round and watch them all explode.
Well, you didn't have that when D1 dropped. Tether didn't come around until later.
True.
But yeah, it's a fun mission. But that whole, if you think about what we know he was back in the Iron Lords, where he basically defended his position and did not let any of the Iron Lords get near to his bunker at that point in time by either sending frames out in defense, which we're going to get more information. Have you guys seen the frames by the Seraph Tower events? Have you guys seen those?
I don't know. I did not.
Okay, so if you activate, or if there's a Seraph Tower event activated and it gets to a certain point, there will be 2 frames of Rasputins that are fighter frames. They're not red jacks or anything like that will show up randomly, and you'll see 2 little defense icons pop over their heads. If you help them fight their way through some enemies, they'll take you to a Rasputin node, similar to the nodes on Mars, when you had to unlock all the different nodes back in the Warmind event. You can get a tiny little reward for defending them. It's not a hard little thing to do. You can do it solo, but you follow them and you help them get to the Rasputin node. They're actually really, really cute, and they have terrible aim. I agree, Black Flag, they are worthless as far as frames go, but they are adorable, and I help them out whenever I see them.
Help little old Rasputin cross the firefight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get 2 materials in a blue. But yeah, Stealth Fiction has a very good question of why are they looking for the nodes? And why are the nodes showing up? And I have been to those locations where the nodes spawn. They're not there until that very specific event happens. So, why are they spawning nodes in? Why is Rasputin spawning a node in? Is that how he's exerting control over the area? Is he exerting control like he did with the Vex? These are all questions that I would like to kind of throw out to the classroom.
I mean, given that I haven't seen these, I'm not really sure I can comment very much, but from what it sounds like, it almost looks like a physical transfer of data, like from whatever is going on at the tower at the time of building the Aurora knife, the satellite, whatever we want to call it, and those two frames taking this information, physically carrying it from the tower to this node to then get transferred back to Rasputin's main consciousness for analysis. I guess that's kind of how I'm seeing it.
I mean, it could be that. They do not spawn directly on the tower event. They're nearby the tower event when they come into play, and they're generally in the line of where a series of normal spawns for the tower event goes down. The one in the EDZ is the easiest to spot, I think, at least. So when you're doing the Seraph Tower event, you'll see, if you look up to where Zur is, where that fallen skiff is in that area, you'll see the two frames on the bridge where the pikes normally spawn for that area.
I'll have to head that way at some point and check that out.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun little Easter egg almost for that event. But those happen, so Rasputin, going back to Rasputin being evil with the whole SIVA thing back in the day, Rasputin had sent out those frames. Then Rasputin basically threw everything he could at the Iron Lords to try to stop them, which at the time sounded super impressive, but also it seemed a little weak compared to what we know Rasputin could do. But you have to remember, he was really crippled at that point in time. He didn't have access to a whole lot of things. He was just trying to drop war sats on us all the time. He couldn't throw the Aurora knives. He couldn't shoot things at us. He just tried to drop the satellite on top of our heads.
He got Wei Ning.
Yeah.
He got me a couple of times.
But he was really mad at her. She punched the anomaly.
Which is still one of my favorite things.
I forgot about that card. Was that in a card, or was that just...
Yeah, I think it's the anomaly card, if I remember right.
Oh my god. Made a beeline from orbit. Boom!
One Guardian punched it.
What happened? What happened to them? Warsat landed on her. Oh man.
But anyway, Rasputin has been scary. So he was super not powered then, and was still able to, in some ways, defend himself. I still want an explanation of what happened within the Iron Tomb.
I mean, so I interpreted in that section, that cutscene specifically for our new letters out there, there's a cutscene that kind of shows what happened in the Iron Tomb, but it's directed and made to look like it's from Saladin's point of view, like how he watches what happens. And well, considering what the Fallen did, the command they gave SIVA, and how it just kind of exploded out of control, I kind of get the impression that they attempted to give SIVA a command and it turned on them. But then there's also cards that say that Rasputin just turned SIVA on them anyway. Well,
that the main problem with the command structure that the Fallen gave him was that there was no escape path. So it was a continuous loop that it got locked into, which is why it backfired. I wouldn't say, because SIVA is in and of itself not cognizant of anything. It does exactly what it's directed to do. Yep. Like, there is no sentience behind SIVA at all.
No, not at all. SIVA is mites that can be programmed to do a thing, and they will do that thing until their command says to stop doing that thing. Consume, enhance, replicate is a loop.
Yeah, and it's dangerous, because what happened basically was there was no complexities in it, so you get infected with SIVA mites, and well, they're going to consume, enhance, replicate, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah,
it just that doesn't mean good things.
It means really bad things.
So that was more of the whole thing. Now, that being said, there's hints and stuff that it might not have been exactly on the up and up where they got SIVA, and all that. But as far as like the whole losing control of SIVA, I definitely would say that was entirely on them. Like, that was entirely, hey, we don't know how to program things, and oh, this sounds good. Let's not beta test it. Let's test it in production. Because that always works.
This is why you don't let the 3 Titans do the programming. Because who was...
It's also why you don't let the, what was it, a fallen... Was he a Dreg before he turned into Axis?
I thought he was a...
No, he was
a priest, right? He was an Archon.
Yeah, he was a priest. He was an Archon.
He's an Archon priest.
He was a disillusioned Archon.
That's why you don't let them do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, he was not happy with the servitors, and that's a whole episode in and of itself too.
Yes, it is.
That I would love to be a part of, because I consider myself a bit of a savant when it comes to the Fallen. I love their stories too.
Yeah, I mean, Black Flag's making that point. He was kind of like Fickrell in the sense that he had become disillusioned with the triumvirate of the Fallen hierarchy.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
And then him and I think is it Voxus?
Vosic.
Yeah, Vosic. We're like, oh wait, this allows us to become gods. Yay! And
I don't like the way the government's
it was downhill from there.
I don't like the way the government is running. Just let me become God.
Yeah,
and see what happens.
Because that was the whole point of the pit fights, if I remember correctly. I can't remember what they were called.
Archon's Forge.
The Archon's Forge was to.
I loved those. Sorry. Sent me back.
Yeah, no, well, but I mean, that was the whole point, was the Archon's Forge was you brought a SIVA mite, and if you proved yourself worthy, basically you would infuse it, or the Fallen would infuse it with themselves. And so it was like they were perfecting themselves via that process.
That was good content. I enjoyed the Archon Forges. I thought they were fun. Anyway, as far as lore goes, they are also kind of neat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That also...
And that was also when we got the first hints of the Ghost Network, if I remember correctly, because that was Link, I want to say, the unpaired ghost who got caught in the Archon Forge. That was when we dropped.
I forgot about that guy.
I think that's when he got caught or whatever.
Interesting.
Okay.
Cool.
I feel like we have kind of tucked ourselves into a little bit of a rabbit hole.
It happens.
How so?
Just going from Rasputin to SIVA, now just talking about the SIVA crisis,
SIVA is a major part of Clovis Bray tech, and Rasputin having access to it has always been kind of a interesting paradigm, because if the Fallen were able to create something so ridiculous as access and whatnot with the little ability that they have, the fact that Rasputin has access to it and has had access to it for many, many years, apparently, maybe not the ability to control it so refined, I guess. I don't know. Why hasn't he used that? Was he just trying to hide that ability? Like, there's a lot of different things that with Rasputin and SIVA in there, and even now, because he still has access to it. He's had access this entire time.
Yeah, I don't know, something about an AI with zero morality in control of a bunch of nanites that can literally do whatever he says on command. It's a bit.
But
I think it's
how
also
do you think
it's
we
also
get the heavy frames?
Yeah, I think
true.
it's also a resource. It's a resource management tool too, right? Because I think SIVA is it's a resource hog.
Yeah.
Because it has to be constantly monitored to allow for, the control and everything like that. And so if Rasputin's in the process of doing other things, it's probably not anything nefarious other than the fact that he's like, I don't have enough resources to dedicate to, keeping these little things in control. Or,
which is why he's using us to keep the enemies off of him while he's trying to build the Warsat, or while he's building the other things. We are literally the distraction so he can do it.
Yep.
For all his might and intellectual prowess, he does still need a good distraction.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's also just, again, resource efficiency. Why waste resources on creating a distraction if you can get a distraction for basically free?
Yep. Hey, Anna.
And that's, at least that's the way that's basically the way I feel about it, is like it's literally just the computer being like, oh nope, I don't need to utilize those resources. I can free them up to make this that much faster.
Yeah.
So we could say
we are Rasputin's antivirus software.
I mean,
you're not wrong, Black
kind of.
Flag. It's kind of it's not. You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
And just like any antivirus software, sometimes it just doesn't seem to work.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at you, Blueberries.
As far as a question that was asked in chat about whether or not we'll actually see SIVA again, I do not think we're going to see SIVA in the same capacity, but we do see SIVA already with the way that Rasputin is able to create not only the heavy frames, but also things like the javelin itself, which seems to be a form, an energized, weaponized form of SIVA itself.
It does have the aesthetic similarities to it.
It does. I kind of also see it as like a mini, like, and the only reason I say this is because we don't really know what a real Aurora knife looks like, but I feel like the Valkyrie is like a small scale, like personal sized Aurora knife. This weapon that, when overcharged, could take down a worm god at one point.
I could see that.
So, one final thing I want to talk about Rasputin, which is one of the newer things we talked about a tiny bit, was the way that Rasputin actually communicates with Anna, which I find fascinating in so much as Anna apparently understands Russian, for one. We've had a few instances where he's communicated, it seems like that, with her, but more often, rather than speaking in his lovely robot Rasputin voice, he uses things like color and scent to make note of things he is approving of or disapproving of and stuff like that. Blue, any thoughts on this method? Charmed or Blue?
It actually has some very dark connotations to me, because one of the ways that you can create that effect is by manipulating synapses firing.
The brain.
And I already have a problem with the way that ghosts interact with guardians, and if the ghosts can interact with guardians that way, and then you have Rasputin interacting with ghosts, it's not a huge jump to kind of see a slippery slope there.
He's not just interacting with ghosts that way. He's interacting with Anna that way.
No, but that's
directly.
my point. If a ghost has a telepathic connection to the Guardian, and then Rasputin can control ghosts, it's a bridge, right?
It's
and
not direct.
That's one. It's not necessarily direct, but for all intents and purposes, it could be.
Yeah.
It could appear to be direct, because if he's using the ghost as a proxy connection, similar to the way that he took over the war mines. If he's using the ghost as a remote spike to the Guardian, there's a lot of potentiality there for some very interesting developments as far as the story of what a Guardian is, what a ghost is, which is something that we still don't really have an answer to.
Not in the grander scheme of things. Obviously, as far as the game mechanics, we know what ghosts are. They're door openers.
Yeah.
And backpacks.
No, they live in your backpack.
They hide in your backpack. You didn't do anything. The captain did everything. You hid in his backpack.
But they are also able to pull out all the different items.
Or for that same strike, I am never leaving your backpack again.
Back again.
I love that strike. I think that part is funny.
There's
shake
also
on the web, shake on the web.
There's also the Saber-tooth strike from D1, where he's like, I want to get a bigger shell. Zavala's like, no.
God, that would be terrifying. I'm glad we have not had that happen. Of all of the conversations we've had about the ghost design in the game, just from a aesthetic preference and whatnot, could you imagine flying around with a shank-sized ghost?
I wouldn't fly around.
And everybody's shooting at it. Like, the ghost comes out, your own teammate's gonna shoot at it. Like, no, you do not need to be, 12 times bigger. You just don't.
Point, Green,
he wants the hardware increase.
At that point, Green, I'm saying screw my Sparrow. I'll just ride Ghost in battle.
Yeah,
he's got guns now.
Whee! Your arcade going through the prison of elders.
Exactly. How is that not amazing?
Oh my gosh.
That might be the Titan in me talking.
Oh, man. Okay, so we're probably in agreement that the idea that Rasputin has these conversations via possible synapses manipulation is cause for concern.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's, and it could be nothing more than just a clever way of, writing a different way of communication, because, Rasputin doesn't have the most pleasant voices, even when he's happy, apparently. And so, like, I do want to temper my statement there, being that is my own paranoia kind of flooding into the situation, because that's where my brain kind of just immediately jumps to. There's not a lot of evidence showing, oh yeah, no, he's taking over, blah blah blah. That's not what I'm saying at all. There's very little evidence that we have that. Of course, there's very little evidence that that's not the situation. So, take that how you will. But I do think that it's an interesting little tidbit, because of just the way that we have seen Rasputin interact with Ghost. We have seen Rasputin interact with Guardians, and Anna, for all sakes and purposes, for all intents and purposes, really, Anna is, I like her character, but one of her big flaws is that she is blind to the fact that Rasputin might not be telling her everything. Like, she trusts Rasputin, I think, more than she should.
Implicitly, almost.
Yeah. And I think, and the tempering fact to that being, oh, well, that's because blah, 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 it's because it's being manipulated, is the fact that Zavala doesn't. Like, the fact that the Guardians have very disparate reactions to Rasputin, I think, is actually a case or a tick against, any mental manipulation shenanigans going on. Not to say that it's not possible, but that it's not as widespread. But I think that if there is a flaw in Anna's character, it is that she is too trusting of Rasputin.
Flaw being just like we're dogging on the writers, more of flaws, and this is a written
no.
flaw.
Yeah, this is an intentional. This is an intentional character flaw. Like, I don't. No. Correct. Sorry. Yes, thank you, Green. That is not an oversight. That is, I think, an intentional, and I appreciate it, because I think that's where you see the difference between her and Zavala really come through. And I agree with you, Green, that the 180 that Zavala seems to do there with the bunker, I mean,
it seems a little out of character.
It seems out of character. I'm hoping that we get clarification on maybe something that happened before because if I remember right, we didn't really get an indication of why he was even there.
No, we did not.
He just showed up, right?
So the first bunker in the EDZ, when you unlocked it at the beginning of the season, you had both.
We open it with him and Anna.
Yeah, with him and Anna.
Right, and he gives us an increased authority over that bunker.
Yep.
Because I remember that was one of the dialogues that I was diving through looking for here, is like he gives us basically unparalleled authorization for the EDZ bunker. Mm-hmm. I don't remember him ever weighing in on the lunar bunker or the IO bunker.
No,
the IO bunker, I'm like, all right, whatever. He shows up. I get that.
Yeah, the lunar bunker, the only person you meet there is Anna, and she's really not happy with the hive that are in there, and
oh god, yeah, that
delivers
was
one of the sickest blade barrages I have ever seen. Literally, I can't remember what she yells. Does she yell like "Go home" or "Get out of here" or something like that?
Get out!
I think it was "Get out."
Yeah, it's just "Get out." I was like, I felt that, and I just walked into the room.
The thing that, and I could see a story reason why Zavala shows up on IOB is, and it's exactly what you guys were describing. Both Zavala and Anna show up at the EDZ. Then we get Anna alone on the moon. And what's to say that Zavala and Anna basically didn't split up and have been bouncing all over the system, opening these different things up?
Well, and it's not like Zavala doesn't have other things to do.
Correct, but he shows up on IO. he has this interaction with Rasputin and becomes incredibly disturbed by it, basically forces us to go through the rest of the bunker, which, if I remember correctly, the bunker was cleared. There was nothing in there after that point. So either Zavala already did it, and we were just catching him as he was leaving and having this conversation with Rasputin, or there was nothing actually in there, and by us unlocking the bunker gave access to the bad guys. I still have a bone to pick on how the bad guys are getting into these bunkers.
As Black Flag says,
questions?
We're Windows Defender. You're defended. Nope.
Hey guys, maybe we should close the door on the way out.
Well, but here's the thing. It's a resource thing. It's a resource. It 100% is, because you can buy chips that say the bunker will stay cleared for this day or for this week. You are forcing Rasputin to clean up his own mess if you buy those, but you have to spend resources to do it. It is literally a resource management thing.
In this situation,
he is using us as free labor.
We're the parents, and we're picking up his room for free.
Yeah, that is 100%. We are cleaning up his grody, sand-ridden, hive-infested, overgrown plants. There's a coffee cup that's in every single bunker on the left side of the bunker if you're facing in towards the control box. Every single one of them has the same coffee cup.
Yep, I want that coffee cup.
That is gross. It's
I've
gross.
never noticed that.
I mean, correct. Yeah, yeah. I love that. I can't get it out of my head now.
So, oh god, that implies
Season
that
11,
Rasputin drinks
season
coffee.
of the divorce. Who gets the kid? Rasputin.
Oh, but
I don't want him.
I sure as hell don't want him.
I love you, Raspy, but no.
Dino, there's a precious fish I go say hello to every day. You know what? All jokes aside, I really do love the environmental artist for putting in those little things, because that is just one of the joys. Yeah, that is just one of the joys of doing that stuff. Like, just, oh my god, the coffee
frogs
cups
on Nessus,
the frogs and the beetles, right? Aren't they beetles that are on Nessus?
There's beetles. Yeah, I think so. And then if you are in the EDZ, there are fishes all over the place. Yep. There's fishes on the Crucible map, the fortress.
There's a little Vex
I have
ducks.
been killed at multiple times.
Are the Vex ducks still on Pantheon?
Yes.
Those are...
No, maybe.
Okay, I'll have to go.
I don't know
I was
anymore.
just playing on that map, so I'll have to see if I can go back. But I know in D1 they had the Vex ducks. They were like the best things ever.
Cats. Oy, oy, oy.
Oh yeah, the cats. Yeah, like I do have to kind of, my concluding remark is, as much as I love ragging on little things, it's also the little things that I absolutely love.
Yep.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's just funny. I just use the coffee cup as a way to say that he has not cleaned up his dishes in hundreds of years. Rasputin,
I don't want to know...
Young man, you are grounded.
I don't want to know what thing or things may or may not live in that grody coffee cup now. You're gonna pick it up, turn it upside down. There's a new species sitting there.
You'll just have Foe and Diem show up randomly.
It's the Calvin and Hobbes thing with the dinner. That's always trying to eat him before he can eat it.
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
So, in conclusion, Rasputin is a moody teenager
who won't clean up his room. Unless you pay him.
His dad is Zavala, and his mom is Anna Bray.
And his dad does not approve. Nope. Unless he really, really needs something.
Dad always says, indeed. Says it way too much.
So shoutouts.
Okay. Before I laugh myself into a coma. Oh, geez, where is it? Where is it on my notes? There's my shoutout page. So I got 2 shoutouts. So the first is gonna be WTF Game Nation. They took me through some of my first raids ever. Ended up actually getting me Anarchy. So, there was someone in our team who that's all they've been grinding for. I had never done Scourge of the Past before this now, and this was my first time, and I walk over to the chest at the end of the thing and pulled out an Anarchy. I was the only one that got it. And all I remember hearing in the Discord was fists slamming into keyboards.
No. Yeah.
I was like,
that's a good raid right there. That's a good raid when someone breaks something.
I heard fists on keyboards, and
it's like Vault of Glass all over again.
No, but for real though, they're super good. Toast and Peanut do some amazing work. They know the raids really well. They do Sherpa carries all the time, and they're not the kind of Sherpa that'll be like, all right, you just kill stuff, we'll actually do the mechanics. No, they will do trial by fire. You will learn the mechanics by the time you are done with the raid, and it's really awesome. And then my final shout out is going to go to the AMC mod team, the Admira Cognitive mod team and admins. You guys are awesome. I miss playing Destiny with you guys, and hopefully at some point we can when my work schedule isn't crazy, or maybe when we're not in a weird quarantine where my sleep schedule is all over the place, play some Destiny again, or even Jackbox. I'd take Jackbox at this point. I miss you guys.
Jackbox is fun. It's a good one.
And that's my shoutouts.
Nice. So my shoutouts is a shoutouts to the future listeners of this. It's going to take a few weeks, I think, before Blue and I are super comfortable thinking that this is not getting released immediately after we record it, essentially. Mm-hmm. It's going to take a few weeks, so it's going to be patient with us. So shoutouts to you guys for continuing to be patient as we grow and expand, and we figure out how best to make this show work for you guys and for us. So it's a shout out to you guys on that. That being said, next time you hear from us, you will be listening to us and Hey, I'm Dead Again, or Cam, about the state of the Vanguard. So look in your podcast downloading abilities, applications, words are hard, for that when it comes out. Blue, shout-outs for you.
No, really just another big thank you to everyone who has helped out with getting the dialogue redesign up and running. I know there's a couple people who have asked for a couple specific people to come up next. If you have a request of someone or a specific character that you want to get in there, please just message us, whether that's on Twitter, Discord, email. Use the contact form on the website, whatever makes, or whatever is easiest for you, just so I can put them on a list, and so I know what will make you guys, what will actually be helpful to everyone. But again, just a big shout out to everyone who has helped out with that. It's been a bit of a labor of love, if you will. But and then, as always, I wanted to thank you for your time, and until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer. Stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusedFireChat. Links to all our episode archives can be found at www.thelorenetwork.com. Please be sure to email us at FocusedFireChat@gmail.com with any comments and or questions for the team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.